The Rainforest Cafe has been transporting guests into the jungles of their local Westfield mall, inviting people to dine and drink in a fully themed rainforest, complete with animal animatronics and $15 LED cocktails. Since 1994, Rainforest Cafe has spread over to 45 different locations, cementing itself as a true giant in the themed restaurant industry. Rainforest Cafe, whether you like it or not, is truly unique. What other restaurant will simulate a thunderstorm every 15 minutes? What other restaurant has terrifying gorilla animatronics? Does Red Lobster have a talking tree? I don't think so. So for that, we raise a toast to Rainforest Cafe, and today we'll be discussing the rise and fall of the brand as a whole. The concept of the Rainforest Cafe was birthed out of the mind of Steven Schussler, a former advertising salesman. Steven heard the call to the jungle and decided to dip his toes into the themed restaurant industry. At the time in 1989, the themed restaurant concept was blowing up, with places like the Hard Rock Cafe and Planet Hollywood. And of course, who could forget Pasta Mania, the short-lived pasta restaurant themed around wrestling and spearheaded by no one else other than the documented bigot Hulk Hogan.
Look into my eyes, man!
Now that last one only really lasted for a year, but I had to include it because what? Like that's what? Long story short, Steven sought out a new theme to immerse dining guests, and he landed on the rainforest of the world. In order to pitch this concept to investors, he decided to turn his whole house into the first beta version of the Rainforest Cafe. Quote, artificial waterfalls tumbled down, custom-made rock formations, animatronic crocodiles bobbed their heads, and speakers piped in the roar of a tropical thunderstorm. This really was like the first version of the Rainforest Cafe. It had pretty much everything down to the aquariums, the tropical birds, animatronics, immersive theming, and of course, the retail. They really pushed the fact that you can shop there. They literally put it before the dining aspect of the Rainforest Cafe in the subtitle. Of course, most of these items look like they haven't changed since the 90s, but that doesn't change the fact that these restaurants try to sell you on a whole package. Like it's almost a mini theme park. They say things like eat, shop, play, when in reality, the shopping aspect is the equivalent to the gift shop at the end of a theme park ride. But back to the point, Steven was fully invested in this concept of the Rainforest Cafe. He even got real exotic animals like iguanas and tortoises to be a part of this house sales pitch. The power consumption of his house racked up to over $2,000 in October of 1994 and was the highest of any resident in Minnesota at the time. And it even got the attention of the DEA, who showed up because they thought he was running like an elaborate drug lab, but in reality he was just creating the Rainforest Cafe. It took him over 3 years and $400,000 to make this happen, which feels like it's gotta be one of the biggest Hail Marys of all time, and reeks of divorced dad vibes. Soon, due to how expensive it was, he would face financial bankruptcy, of course. And this wouldn't be until gambling tycoon Lyle Berman would invest the initial $1.2 million into the company, making him the first CEO of Rainforest Cafe. They would start working on the first Rainforest Cafe in the newly opened Mall of America, which is huge because this was going to be the largest shopping mall in the United States. Also, quick shout out to Camp Snoopy, never forget. They managed to build and design this location incredibly fast, and it managed to open its doors for the first time on February 3rd, 1994. And as soon as it started, it basically became a staple of the Mall of America. People were eating up the overpriced burgers and jungle atmosphere. In the 90s and early 2000s, the atmosphere really did pop off at the Rainforest Cafes. Fog filled all the restaurants, the lighting was beautiful, the waterfalls were awesome, the animatronics weren't Disney level, but they actually like moved. The aquariums were filled with tons of live exotic fish, and they would even have animal demonstrations with real live animals. Like, look at how beautiful this looks. They really went all out. Another thing that set Rainforest Cafe aside was the names of all the jobs actually at the restaurant. So like safari guides were waiters and waitresses, safari assistants were bussers, pathfinders were people who worked in the retail section, guides were hostesses, which just is a little bit weird to me. I don't know why, just a little. Another important thing to mention was that the Rainforest Cafes back in the day would use live exotic animals nightly, anything from exotic birds to lizards and snakes. In the middle of some mall in Minnesota, guests can encounter these real actual jungle animals, which ethically is a bit weird. Something about a real animal being taken out of its home and then just like shown off to people as they like eat cheeseburgers in like a fake plastic jungle is kind of funny to me. But according to the company, they had top people watching over the animals and made sure that they were all taken care of. I hope that's true. I tried to find if there's any controversies about that, but I didn't find any, so it must have been alright. The people in charge of these animals were also called curators, hours. Each Rainforest Cafe also had maintenance staff which would help with all the special effects and animatronics, and over the next few years Rainforest Cafe would become a household name and have locations pop up all over the US. The biggest deal would hit in 1998 when Disney would partner with the company to build 2 locations at both Disney Springs and Animal Kingdom at Disney World. By 1999, each location was making over $8 million a year, making them one of the most profitable restaurants per location in the country. Eventually, by the 2000s, Steven would sell the company for an incredibly lowball offer to Laundry Restaurants Incorporated, a company well known for owning over 500 restaurant, hotel, and casino chains, including the worst shrimp restaurant in America, Bubblegum Shrimp, which will probably be the next video in this series. But also, seriously, like, who saw Forrest Gump and was like, what if we made a restaurant, like a themed restaurant out of this? I understand the whole connection to like the shrimp company in the movie and Bubba and everything, but it's just, I don't know, it's weird. Like, it's like, do people even, like, do kids know what Forrest Gump is anymore? I don't think so. But anyway, this, people would say maybe this was the end of the Rainforest Cafe, really, where, you know, a lot of the quality went down. Pretty much everything changed from, you know, the menu, them taking out a lot of the effects and decor that would cost them a lot of money. So like a lot of the animatronics were kind of just turned into static statues. You know, that just everything was really like cut down to save as much money as possible. The worst sin, at least in the creator Steven Schuessler's eyes, was that they got rid of all the live animals, which in response he said, "I feel like the marketing value of the birds alone justified their cost, but I was overruled." I kind of understand this one because it did cost each location over $100,000 a year, but again, a lot of people feel like this was like a lot of the charm being taken away from, you know, the whole brand. Why did Steven sell the company for so low, you might ask? Well, they made the mistake of making the company public from day one, which initially worked out really well. They got a lot of buzz around this new stock, and they initially grew it from $6 to $25 by 1996, but sadly in the year 2000, the year Steven sold the company, the stock crashed all the way down to $2. Like his original vision, as amazing as this was, it kind of showed that, you know, the Rainforest Cafes were incredibly expensive to run, and the trend of the themed restaurants were kind of slowly going out. And a lot of these cost-cutting measures made the overpriced aspect of everything feel a bit less worth it. Like, if the atmosphere is top-notch, then, you know, you pay the price. But if the monkeys look like that, then maybe it's not worth it. Since the year 2000, there are only 23 Rainforest Cafes left compared to the 45 they had originally. This is huge part due to the cost-cutting measures needed in order to keep the company alive, and as well as, you know, the trend of restaurants going away. The vibe was that the Rainforest Cafes were kind of tacky in the early 2000s, so this makes a lot of sense. People really just don't seem to care about Rainforest Cafe that much anymore, which has caused the restaurants to just continuously go down in quality until they're eventually closed. The recent closure of the location at Downtown Disney at Disneyland marks a real end for the company, and still to this day, the only locations still around are pretty much just all in tourist towns. I think we'll see a lot more of these smaller locations start to close down as the years go on, and massive locations like the Mall of America and Disney World will most likely be the last to go, considering the fact that they still do pretty well due to their fact that they're, you know, in giant theme parks and in giant, you know, touristy malls. But today there are still 23 Rainforest Cafes worldwide, and they are still carrying on the rainforest spirit to the bitter end. Like the one in Galveston, Texas that features a raft-style water ride through some ancient temples, or the one in Las Vegas, which is just gross and sad. Today I think Rainforest Cafes kind of stand as a husk of what they used to be. I don't think I even saw a single animatronic move when I went to the Vegas one, and this has got to be probably the end times for Rainforest Cafe as a whole. It's kind of silly because, you know, brands like Bubba Gump, Hard Rock Cafe, Margaritaville are still going really strong. Like Hard Rock and Margaritaville opened up hotel chains. Hopefully maybe we'll see a renaissance in themed restaurant entertainment and someone can come in and resurrect the Rainforest Cafe. But for now, I think it stands as a relic of the 90s and early 2000s, and I'm sure it's in a lot of our hearts and our childhoods. Please comment below if you've been to Rainforest Cafe. Let me know how it was. Was it cool? Was it slick? But other than that, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.